It is my immense pleasure to welcome you all to this insightful session on consumer laws, innovation, and protection through the Competition Act. We have with us our esteemed guest, that is Dr. Sudatta Barik, ma'am. She is Assistant Professor of Law at National Law University, Odisha, and her expertise in consumer law and policy making is surely what makes her an esteemed guest to be present before us and to share her valuable insights to the topic. So we expect the session to run from around 50 minutes to 1.5 hours, depending upon the engagement that we receive throughout the session. The session is divided into two parts. The first part is where we would be listening to the keen insights of Sudatta Barik ma'am, followed by a Q&A session where the participants would have permission and also are allowed to engage with ma'am by unmuting themselves. They can also switch on their cameras for a better interactive uh, engagement. Along with that, we would also be sharing a feedback form at the end of the session that will ensure that we can ensure your attendance and can also send you the certificates by collecting your email ID through the feedback form. So over to you, ma'am. It is a great honor and a pleasure to welcome you in Legal Specs. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Legal Space. Uh, okay, good morning, all of you. So, is the slide visible, Shreyas?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, so our topic for today's discussion is Consumer Law Innovation and Protection through Competition Act. I'm Dr. Sudatta Barik from National Law University, Orissa. I teach consumer laws, innovation, and competition law at our university. So, to start with this topic, as you know, this is a very emerging topic as the new consumer legislation has come up in 2019, and there was a lot of scheme and lot of policies, and the ministry, government, state government and central government are doing so many activities for the promotion of innovation and entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, somewhere we need certain guidelines, policies, schemes, statutes to control that. Now, when we say consumer law, now when we say about commercial laws, or when we speak relating to commercial laws, first thing that comes is that is for a consumer, where whether it is a whether it is a invention or introduction of a product, or somewhere it is relating to the availing of services or hiring of the services. Now, when it comes to the ecosystem relating to commercial, now the end user is always is the consumer, whether you are giving services, whether you are manufacturing a product or distributing a product or whatever. Now, when we say consumer, now the first particular principle say that we must see the interest of the consumer, we must see the protection of the consumer, we must see the welfare of the consumer. Now, when we say innovation, now now the first question arises how innovation, consumer laws, competition law, all these three particular topics are interrelated. Now, when we say innovation or invention, or as we say, government is coming up with new schemes like Make in India, Startup India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Digital India, and many particular schemes. Now, when we say innovation, the entrepreneur or the person or the owner of the company is coming up with an innovative idea. Now, to what extent that idea is valid, or to what extent that idea is a validation idea or a validated idea, that is the major question in the legal system. Now, when we say about innovation, now innovation can, now as we know or as we are aware with the current ecosystem or the current economical development of the country, innovation happens in each and every aspects. Now, as we say, whether it is for the financial services, whether it is for the real estate services, whether it is for the product services, whether it is in the film industry, whether it is in the hospital sector, whether it is in the entertainment sector, whether it is in the sports sector. So each particular sector nowadays is coming up with the innovation. Now when we say the persons are going to pitch their ideas, either they come up with a product or they come up with a services. Now, for whom they come up with a product or for whom they come up with a services, it is for the consumer. The end user is always the consumer. Now, when the end user is always the consumer, the owner of the company or the entrepreneur must ensure that whatever services or whatever product he is giving to the end user, that has to be the best product for the consumer, or that has to be the best product for the individual or the person. Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So that is the ed. So that is so the innovation. So the entrepreneur must ensure that whatever is given to the consumer, that has to be the best. Now, how the entrepreneur has to know that that is the best? Now, the concerned entrepreneur or the concerned owner of the company must aware about the laws, about the legal system, about the legal policies, about the circulars that are been circulated by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or Ministry of Skill Development or Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Ministry Competition Act, Competition Commission of India. Now, all these are like it's a mixture of the compliances. It is the mixture of compliances that has to be there. Now, when we say about innovation, the second question that is arises is the sustainability. Now, how the innovation can sustain? If you see the innovation ecosystem in India has significantly improved its position in the Indian Global Index, in a Global Innovation Index, from 39th position in the year 2015 to from 89 position in 2015 to 39th position in the India Global Innovation Index. Now, when we say innovation, when we say the speedy rise in the innovation, now that comes only because of the sustainability in the market. Now, where from the sustainability comes? Now, when we say innovation, it is coming up with a new product. Now, as we say, now, for example, we say about a coffee. Now, when we say about a coffee, now most of us are fond of having coffee during our working hours or some particular leisure time or all. Now, when we say about coffee, now when the coffee was introduced in the market, it was a simple powder that came to the market. You need to either pour it in a hot water or in the milk, as per the choice of the consumers or as per the choice of the persons. Now, if you see, starting from a powder to a paste or to a mixture of where you will, now if you see the ad from the Nescafe, now Nescafe recently has come up with a product where the entire packet comprises of a glass of a particular glass, a powder, where you are only to require or pour a hot water in that and your cup of coffee will be ready on that. Now, that is something from a casual traditional coffee making to a innovative idea that the company has to come up. Now, if you see the current trend that is going off a smartwatch. Now, now definitely the entrepreneur who will be coming up with that product of smartwatch. Now, previously we use it analog. Even in my time, when I was appearing for my exams, I used to wear an analog watch. Now, from that analog watch, now definitely any person, any individual, he must know that what is the time, accordingly he has to adjust his time management or whatever work he has. Now, from analog work to the smartwatch, now it is not only a smartwatch. Now the smartwatch are having a different features, right? We are having features relating to our health. You can check the your health condition in that. They will give you reminders in the smartwatch. They will also give you whether you want to check that particular message or not, you want to check that particular email on the email or not, whether you want to see that what particular who is calling you at that particular time. So many features, many specifications come up when we say about innovation. Now, when we say about innovation, the consumer interest. Now, second is the consumer interest has to be encountered, or the consumer interest need to be understood that what the consumer need. Now if you want to make a innovation sustainable, now if you want to make a innovation operative for a particular period of time, now when we say innovation, it is completely a industry or it is completely an enterprise, right? So when we say relating to innovation, it's a company. Now when it's a company, now if a person comes up with an innovation which does not serve the purpose of the consumer are not interested with that product. It will not add any value to the usage of the consumer, because until and unless the consumer will usage the product, why the consumer will pay a consumer fee, or why will the consumer will pay a user fee for the product he is purchasing or for the services he is availing, right? So when we say consumer, now innovation for that, now when we say about innovation, first of all, innovation must be for a innovative particular product or for a particular services. Now whether it is a services also, now we have n number of services relating to Zomato. Now we have the food services, we have Zomato, we have Swiggy, we have Swiggy, Instamart. So many particular companies are coming up with the innovative activities in their company. Now if innovation will not be there, now the company will not be able to sustain. That is the principle that is going on in this particular Indian market now. Now until and unless a company, whether it is an old company, whether it is a new company, until and unless a company will not adopt innovative practices, whether it is in the product, whether it is in the services, it will be difficult for the Indian company to sustain. Now as we know, now in today's scenario, or in the entire sector is allowed for foreign direct investment. Now if you will not compete, if the company will not come with an innovative idea, it is very difficult for a company to sustain. Now to sustain, it is not only that innovation is required. Now to sustain, innovation is required, at the same time legal compliances are required. Now when we say about legal compliances, the company must know that what are the legal compliances that have to be followed to sustain it for a particular period of time, or to sustain it for a longer period of time. Now when we say sustainability, when we say innovation, or when we say consumer welfare, now we have come up with a consumer law relating that the law. Now when we say innovation basically refer to the development and application of new ideas and technologies across various sectors like agriculture, technology, healthcare, manufacturing, which contribute to the economic development. Now if you see some of the innovative practices now in the agricultural sector, now the farmers producer organization, they come up with the new technologies that how the farmers can be benefited. Now again, the second question arises, whether a farmer is a consumer, whether a farmer can be considered as a consumer. Now again, that is a question that need to be decided under the Consumer Protection Act, and it is already decided under the National Seed Corporation by the Supreme Court, that even if the consumer is a farmer, now he or she will be considered as a consumer. And as we say, UPI transaction under the National Payment Corporation of India, e-commerce platform like Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, now all these have transferred. Now if you say innovation, now all these particular innovative, all these particular schemes have made the companies to transform from one particular age or one particular stage to a different stage. Now if you see that whether in the current scenario farmers are following the traditional way of agricultural farming or the modernized way of agricultural farming. Now if you see, the agricultural industry nowadays come up with many new industrial equipments, with many new agricultural equipments, which will make their work more easier, and the productivity in the cultivation will be more. Now this is due to the innovative technology only. Now if we again follow the same technology for 15 years, now it will be difficult for a company, it will be difficult for an innovative company or any company to again sustain it after 15 years, right? So when we say about innovation, when we come up with a new product, we need to see that The welfare, where is the welfare of the consumer? Whether the farmer as a consumer is benefited to that extent when we are coming up with the innovation or not. Now, if you see UPI transaction, previously we have to go to the financial institutions with a slip. We will deposit there, then you can withdraw the cash from there. Now after that the ATM system come. Now after that the UPI system come, now where the works becomes more easier. Now again when the works becomes more easier, now at that time when the works becomes more easier, now at that particular time we need to see whether we are protected or not, whether the government ensures that whatever data we are providing through this particular apps, whether that is stored in a proper manner or not, whether there is no, well, if there is there any manipulation that is going on relating to the distribution of data that is given in the UPI portals, that is Phone Pay, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, whatever pay system, digital platforms we have for digital payment. Now to ensure that, now why we need to ensure, now government has their technology to ensure the data or to do the data privacy. Now what about consumer? Now how the consumer now if you say, if you go to the rural areas, they know how to transfer it. I'll just give you an example of UPI system or the Phone Pay system that we have. Now sometime if you see, some of the transactions in your Phone Pay used to be uh, used to stop. If you send money, or if you send a particular payment from one user to another user, it will not be paid, or your money will, the money from your account will be deducted, but it will not be credited to the other person's account. Now if you go, people still, now consumers are there who don't know how to access that, or they don't know how to get back their money if you will not send any complaint, or if you will not send any grievance redressal to the grievance redressal authorities. Now that is a question there where we need the protection of the consumer. Now here the role of entrepreneurs comes, where the role of innovation comes. Now when you are coming up with a new technology, you must ensure that if any dispute arises in the part of the consumer, how that need to be addressed. You must be the entrepreneur, the innovative system or the company must ensure that the company has given all the steps to the consumer, that how the consumer redressal or how the consumer dispute will be addressed in that particular issue. Now that is where we need the welfare of the consumer. Now innovation exactly requires the protect to interest of the consumers or promote competition, which we will discuss in the third topic of the presentation. Now, as of September 30, 2024, DPIIT has officially recognized 1,49,414 entities as the startups. Now, when we say again startups, now startups basically say again, they come up with an idea, they come up with an innovation, may it be relating to a coffee, where the from a powdered coffee to a paste coffee, or where you can only just need to pour a hot water or a hot milk and your coffee is ready to drink, ready to drink or ready to eat items. Now that is again an innovation that a company is coming up. Now the innovation does not means that the company has to grow from the inspection. Innovation is something where the existing company also come up with the innovation. Now if you see a medical pharma company, you must have that is a day-to-day product, we use it in our household. Now Amrutanjan, in every household you will find a Amrutanjan bottle in their houses. Now from Amrutanjan ointment, there is a Amrutanjan what do you say gel that has been introduced in the market. Now definitely the entrepreneur must have thought that what will be the benefit, how it will benefit the Amrutanjan gel, from the Amrutanjan paste to Amrutanjan gel. Now that is where the role of innovation comes. Now when the gel is again that is prepared, as Amrutanjan paste is there or Amrutanjan ointment is there, and the Amrutanjan gel has to come. Now that gel has to comply certain legal compliances. The gel has to comply some legal compliances relating to the interest of the consumer, relating to the legal compliances that they have to take the approval to come out with the gel in the market. Now, there comes where the sustainability of the company is required. Now, until and unless a company is sustainable for a longer period of time, there is no question of innovation. The innovation doesn't have any value in the market or the economy or in the commercial ecosystem. Now, relating to the home appliances, when we have a from a particular paste to be prepared, the company come up with a Philips mixture grinder. Now, from the Philips mixture grinder, the company came up with a that is a product where you just need to pull the thread and the grinder, and the grinding of the product or the vegetables is ready to be used, right? So that is an innovation where the company has to identify that what is the need of the consumer, and as per the need of the consumer, whether that product is a value addition to the consumer, and whatever the consumer is paying as the user fee. Now, if I put a price of a product, for example, if I put a price of a coffee glass, where you will get a powder coffee inside the glass and just you need to pour a hot water. Now, if I will charge 200 rupees for that product, now that will be unfair. Now, where again you are affecting the interest of the consumer. Now, for a particular glass, you cannot charge 200. So that particular thing has to be ensured by the regulator, or that particular thing needs to be ensured by the government, that to what extent a startup company or a company can put these particular price caps on the product. Now, there where the role of consumer department comes, there where the role of food department comes, there where the role of government comes, there where the role of regulators comes, right? Now, innovation can be done by any individual, but when it comes to compliances, the role of a lawyer comes, or the role of a legal luminaries comes, or the role of a legal system comes, that the legal system must be in such a manner that we will able to protect the welfare of the individuals. Now, when we say innovation basically have two components. One is invention, another one is commercialization. Now, when we say invention, now when it is now if it is not an invention, now as we say, without an invention, now how many years you will use a particular product, you will get bored. Now, if you see a person of 20 years of age, if he uses a dress for 5 times, after wearing it for 5 times, he or she will not use that particular clothing, because he or she get bored, right? Now, when we say invention, now it is only for clothing. It applies to all the products and all the services. Now, if you see now, as Netflix is going on at now, every particular person now is using Netflix, Amazon Prime, Geo, everything. Now, if Netflix only will provide that 50 movies for particularly 3 years, or particularly 3-4 years, that 50 movies he will be repeating. If you want to see, only those 50 movies will be telecasted to you, or that 50 movies will you can access to these 50 movies. Definitely after 1 year, the individual will get bored and he will close the subscription of that. He will definitely close the subscription of the Netflix. He will definitely will not subscribe to the subscription of Netflix, or not subscribe to the subscription of Amazon Prime, whatever. Now, there again the responsibility of the entrepreneur comes, again the responsibility of the Netflix comes, that what are the new movies the Netflix is coming up, or incorporating or integrating in this particular app. What are the new series that are been integrated in the Amazon Prime platform, or whatever platform we have. I'm not aware about so many platforms, right? Now that is where the invention comes. Now invention is not only limited to a startup company. It's not that the startup company only can do the innovation. Invention is done by Reliance. Invention is done. Now if you see the automobile industries is coming out with a new design car in every 3 months, a new design features and many expanded features in that car in 2 3 months. So why these are there? Now because this company want to sustain. Now, to sustain it, you have to come up with the innovation. Now, what once the company comes up with the innovation, it's not that his work ends there. Now, then comes the compliances, whether those innovations are validated or not, whether it is sustainable or not. Now, if your innovation is not sustainable, your innovation is not validated, now that is of no use. Immediately the company will go for a winding up, or the company will become bankrupt. Second is commercialization. Now, when we say about industry, when we say about innovation, it has to be for commercialization. Without commercialization, there is no concept of innovation. Now, when the innovation concept came, or when the innovation entrepreneurship concept came, the major principle in that is the finance. Finance is the backbone of the business. Without a finance, you cannot start a business, whether you are taking the finance from a banking financial institution, whether you are taking the finance from the angel investors, venture capitalists, special purpose vehicle, or any relative, whatever. Without a finance, commercialization is not possible. Now, whether that particular innovation where the profit is for 2 rupees or 2% also, that is for commercialization. Now that has to be for commercialization. Without a commercialization, our entity never exists, or an entity is not at all exist when it is not for profit. Now, agar not for profit ho gaya, to that will go under non-profitable organizations. Now, when it is a company, whether the company is under Companies Act, whether the firm is under partnership or LLP, whether the enterprise is under micro, small, and medium enterprises, whatever, it has to be for the profit. Now, until and unless the company does not do a profit, it means the company is insolvent. The company cannot run with whatever innovation you have introduced in your market. So, innovation, commercialization, and sustainability, three are the backbone of the innovation. Now, once we see there is a particular product in a company, for a company, or a particular services that is introduced for the company, commercialization, sustainability, and innovation are the three key ingredients or components that has to be there. Now, next question comes after innovation. Now, after in the innovation ecosystem, we have many particular schemes like Atmanirbhar Bharat, digital payment, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, where the government used to make the government used to give grants to the startup companies where they can do the when they where they can operate their startups for a particular period of time. Now to operate these startups for a particular period of time, you need certain strategies to be followed. It's not that once I get the grant from the government, my work is done, my company will run. Your company cannot run until and unless there is a innovation every 6 months or 1 year. There has to be commercialization every year, and there has to be a sustainability. Now, sustainability doesn't say only the how you will be sustainable through the innovation, or sustainable through the compliances that are required. Now, if a company is registered under the Companies Act 2013, whoever has read Companies Act, now there are certain compliances that needs to be made for a private company, public company, small company, one person company. Now, if the entrepreneur will not be able to comply to the guidelines under the Companies Act, say for example, they have to conduct meetings, they have to submit annual return to the register of companies. Now, these particular compliances, if are not done in a proper manner, then again the sustainability cannot be done. Then again we can say the company or the startup cannot be able to sustainable. Now When non-compliance is there, the company will immediately close down by the competent authorities under the ministry of the state government or the central government, whatever. So sustainability differs from one particular aspect to another aspect. Now, when we say company, again, the company needs many types of approvals from the pollution control board, from the municipal board, from environmental pollution control board, environment under the Environmental Protection Act, under Forest Act. So many other approvals are required. Now that makes a company sustainable. Until and unless legal compliances will be there, a innovation company or any startup company cannot be sustainable. Now, our topic of discussion as we have relating to consumer. Now, the basic part of the discussion is relating to Consumer Protection Act 2019. Now, when we say Consumer Protection Act, now Consumer Protection Act is a unified legislation. Now, the basic question, now we have a old Consumer Protection Act, that is Consumer Protection Act 1986. After that, 2019 Act came. Now, the 2019 Act came up with some of the new incorporated provisions, taking into consideration the need of the society, taking into consideration the offenses that are being committed, or the non-compliances that are being done towards the consumer, right? Now, as we know, when innovation came, different types of techniques come. Now, when we say innovation came, e-commerce platform came. Now, through the e-commerce platform, we have clothing industry, we have technological industry, we have fooding industry, we have many other industry came up through this e-commerce platform. Now, previously, we do not have any law relating to e-commerce platform. How the e-commerce company will be regulated? Now, when under the 1986 Act, there was no particular provision which say that how the e-commerce company needs to be regulated. Now, when we say consumer, now the Consumer Protection Act say who can be considered as a consumer. Now, you cannot say every person is considered as a consumer. Now, when I am asking for my right, under what particular aspect I am asking the right to get a compensation from the company. Now, why the Consumer Protection Act is now? Consumer Protection Act, we call it as a beneficial legislation. Now, why it is a beneficial legislation? Now, if certain company has defrauded you in the sense while selling the product or hiring the services or taking the services. Now, if you are filing a consumer complaint against a company, you will get compensation out of that. Now, again, the Consumer Protection Act 2019 now has become a huge legislation where again we require a particular number of classes to complete the entire legislation. So I'll just summarize it in 5-10 minutes, which say that who is a consumer. Now, consumer is a person. Now, the Consumer Protection Act say the consumer is a person who pays for a product or pays for a services, whether the consumer is paying in full or whether the consumer is paying in part. Now, when we say consumer is paying in full, now if you are purchasing a mineral water bottle, the cost of the bottle is 20 rupees. You are paying him 20 rupees on purchasing the bottle, you have become consumer. Now, there are certain circumstances where you do a deferred payment. Now, deferred payments say that you are purchasing the bottle, you are paying 10 rupees. The rest 10 rupees you will pay in the next month. Now, that is called deferred payment. Now, deferred payment, now if any product or services is done through payment has been made or consideration has been made through deferred payment, then also he will be considered as a consumer. He or she will be considered as a consumer. Now, it means the person who is paying for the product or paying for the services, he will be considered as a consumer. Now, the second question arises whether the companies will be considered as a consumer or not. Now, the law say any company who is doing any activities for commercial purpose, he will not be considered as a consumer. Now here again the question say that I purchased bottle for myself. Now, how much water I can drink in one day? Either 2 bottles, 3 bottles, 4 bottles, 5 bottles maximum. Now, if I purchase 500 bottles for me, whether 550,000 bottles for me, whether I will be considered as a consumer or not. Now, there also for purchasing 5 bottles, I am paying money. Here also for purchasing 50 bottles, I am paying the money. But the question is, if there are two persons, one is A, other person is B. A is purchasing 5 bottles for himself. B is purchasing 50 bottles, not for himself, but to purchase it, but to resell it in the market. Who will be in that particular cases, who will be considered as a consumer? Now, A will be considered as a consumer, B will not be considered as a consumer, as per the definition that is given under the Consumer Protection Act. Now, when we say A will be considered as a consumer, because A is using the product or whatever services for his livelihood. Now, the particular principle that has been identified by the Supreme Court in Lakshmi engineering case and many landmark cases, that which say that the person who is doing any particular the person who is doing any particular activities for his livelihood or for himself, now that person will be considered as a consumer. The person doing it for reselling the product or doing it in the commercial market, he will not be considered as a consumer. The person will not get any benefit under the Consumer Protection Act. So they have given a limitation. Now, when the product is for resale or the product is for commercial purpose, you cannot avail the protection that is given under the Consumer Protection Act. Now, a company cannot take the protection under the Consumer Protection Act. He has to go as per either the Companies Act or the Competition Act, whatever commercial act they are. Now, when it is an individual person who is a general person, who is an individual person, who is a lay person, who is purchasing certain goods or availing certain services out of that person can be considered as a consumer under the Consumer Protection Act. Now, similarly, under the new act, many important definitions or many important concepts were added under the new Consumer Protection Act 2019, which say that product liability, unfair trade practices, misleading advertisement, e-commerce. Now when we say product liability, now you just need to link with the innovation. Now, when we say product liability, now an entrepreneur is coming up with a product. Now, when the product has any defect or the product or the services has any deficiency, now who will be liable for that? Now, the Consumer Protection Act the old Consumer Protection Act 1986 was not clear on that to what extent a product manufacturer will be liable, to what extent a product distribution agency will be liable. So the new act made it clear that what will be the liability of the producer, or what will be the liability of the person who is manufacturing the product or distributing the product or whatever activities that has been doing in the commercial market. So that particular chapter has been integrated under the new Consumer Protection Act. Then unfair trade practices. Now, unfair trade practices previously we had, but it was not so specific relating to unfair trade practices. Now, again, the unfair trade practices were being expanded under the new Consumer Protection Act. Now, unfair trade practices includes many other things which say that this particular scenario or this particular uh, activities can be taken up, or these particular activities can be done in a proper manner or not, how the weights and measures will be added, how the consumer defects or how the consumer products will be done, what are the new schemes that are come up which are not affecting the consumers in a different manner. So many particular practices, if you see the particular provision relating to the Companies Act, relating to unfair trade practices. So when we say unfair trade practices, the unfair trade practices concept or the unfair trade practices offense has been included under the Consumer Protection Act and also Competition Act 2002. So that gives a clear picture that what are the activities which comes under unfair trade practices, whether it is relating to the weights and measures, whether it is relating to the color of the product, whether it is relating to the advertisement, or some particular instances where unfair trade practices can be given, whether it is relating to the misrepresentation of price, whether it is relating to the MRP of the product that has been quoted. So many activities or many particular particular offenses which are included under the unfair trade practices. Similarly, we have the new Consumer Protection Act 2019 included misleading advertisement. Now, misleading advertisement, if you see, uh, most of the advertisement, now many instances are there. We have Horlicks, we have many particular cosmetics products where Fair and Lovely is one of the a best example, or Fair and Handsome cream is one of the best example, where it say that you are misleading the consumers. Now it is not only for the for the established corporates, it applies to all type of companies or all type of corporates. Now, when we say misleading advertisement, now that was again not there under the old 1986 Act. But the new act incorporated misleading advertisement, where it say that if you are misleading the consumers, whether relating to the food product, relating to cosmetic product, relating to clothing, any particular sector, how the particular government or particular ministry or the consumer department will take a action against the person who is doing the misleading advertisement. Now, who is doing that misleading advertisement? It is the celebrity who has been given the script to do the misleading advertisement. Whether the liability only applies to the owner of the product or also to the endorser who is endorsing the misleading advertisement. Again, the startup company also endorse their what we say. The startup companies also endorse their product through a celebrity personnel or a celebrity person, right? So whether the liability also extends to them. Now again, the consumer department has come up with a guideline which will say, which we will discuss, which I'll just show you the slide, that what are the specific legislations we have relating to misleading advertisement. Now, misleading advertisement, where it say that what will be the liability of the endorser, what will be the liability of the owner of the company. So that again extended to make ensure that consumers are not affected. So that is again the aim of the discussion, or the aim of the Consumer Protection Act 2019, which say that consumers should not be affected when a consumer is paying for a particular product. Now, if you have heard of Horlicks, or if you have heard of Bonvita, now they say that those are energy drinks. But there was a claim that was before the Department of Consumer Affairs, which say that the entire drink comprises of sugar. Now, when the entire drink comprises of sugar, how can you say it is an health drink? So immediately the department issued a circular saying that you should remove this particular claim when you are advertising this particular advertisement in a public platform. Now that ensures that you should not miss it, because the consumer is paying for the product, whether it is a Horlicks product, whether it is a Bonvita product, whether it is a Complan product, whatever. Now, when it has been advertised, it should not represent a wrong claim towards the public. Now, as we know, individuals, children, or youngsters are more attracted towards the advertisement than reading it in a black and white newspaper. So when they are more attracted towards the advertisement that is being telecasted in the television, definitely it will attract them to purchase that product or to avail that services. Now it should not be false. Now whatever you want to claim for the product, it has to be true. Now if it will be false, then the particular endorser who is endorsing the product, like the celebrity whoever is endorsing, or the company the company who is doing the misleading advertisement, both will be liable to pay compensation to the consumers. Now at the end of the day, Consumer Protection Act grants compensation or a substitution of the product. So where the substitution of the product or services is not there, the consumer court asks the company to compensate the product for whatever thing that has been done. Recently, if you have seen, there was a issue, um, there was a news relating to the PVR cinema hall, that the PVR cinema halls are telecasting the ad which is extended to a longer period of time. which was again questioned by the High Court, saying that if you are extending the advertisement for a longer period of time, that affects the welfare of the consumer, because consumers are paying to watch the movie for a particular period of time. You cannot extend it through advertisement, taking the ads from the companies and play it just to forcefully ask the consumers to watch that product and take that product or purchase that product impliedly. So that creates a question, that creates a dispute, or that creates a consumer claim that need to be addressed in a proper manner. Now then, the e-commerce platform. Now again, e-commerce was not there under the old Consumer Protection Act. E-commerce was added under the new Consumer Protection Act, which say that how the e-commerce companies will be regulated under that. Now, as we see, now the e-commerce rules, we have a particular e-commerce rules 2020, which say that how the e-commerce companies needs to be regulated, or how the e-commerce companies need to be take into account that what they are disclosing, what should be disclosed, what should not be disclosed, whether that should have a dispute redressal mechanism in a particular platform, how it should be there. So consumer habits have now, if you see, shifted from traditional to a technological based product, with many consumers opting for smart devices, online transaction, online services. Now basically the consumer, now as most of the consumer habits are being changed, now we are adopting smart devices, we are opting for online transactions, we are opting for online services. Now there we need to restrict that, how these particular things need to be systematized in a particular manner. Now, as we know, Consumer Protection Act is not a tech based act, or it cannot address the tech targeting the technological restriction, but it can to some extent see that to somehow that how the rights of the consumers are being addressed in a proper manner. Now, it basically places a liability on the manufacturers, sellers, service providers for any harm caused, that is, to a consumer by any faulty or defective goods. So that basically say the liability of the liability of the corporates, that if you are providing if you are providing certain defective goods or defective services to the consumer, then the Consumer Protection Act is there to give compensation out of that. But that is not take guaranteed. Now take guaranteed will come now, the government is coming up with the DPDP Act, which say that how the digital protection, data protection has to be there. Now, when we say about online transactions, online services, smart devices, you are particularly giving your data to be accessed through this particular apps or through this particular websites. Now, to what extent those are helpful to the consumers, now, or how to check that the consumer data is being addressed in a proper manner, it is not been disseminated in any other platform. Now that is again a question. When you go technologically, when the consumers are adopting technological based services or technological based products, the next question comes, how they are protected. Now they cannot be protected manually. You have to come up with technological protection that needs to be provided to the consumers at large. Now, when we say relating to the network and technology, relating to the consumer protection, the networks and technology wing of the Department of Telecommunication came up with a guideline which say that whenever you are using any particular app, that the whatever is the default password that is set, the user has to change the default password, because that is required to protect the data of the particular individual or towards the particular consumer. Now we have again the guidelines for prevention and misleading advertisement and endorsement of misleading advertisement, which I was discussing in the last slide, saying that what can be considered as a misleading advertisement, what are the types of misleading advertisement, what will be the liability of the endorser, because when an endorser endorses any product, he has to enter into an agreement with the company that if I am endorsing the product of Horlicks, then I have to enter into a script. Now that script need to be now when I'm signing that script, the script must claim that whatever is written in that script, that is true, right? Now, if I'm if I'm signing a contract with a company to endorse that product, and the company is giving the script which is entirely false, and I'm signing that, I'm endorsing the product. Now, there the liability of endorser is also effective, and through this particular guidelines, the endorser will be liable to pay the compensation. Now, Reserve Bank of India and Securities Exchange Board of India also set guidelines that how the UPI transaction has to be done. If you are facing any difficulty relating to the UPI transaction, you have to raise a concern with the. Now, there is a universal unified portal that has been introduced by Reserve Bank of India. Now, Reserve Bank of India, now, if, for example, you are not getting any particular grievance redressal cell from these digital payment apps, directly you can file a complaint through the RBI portal. That is a unified app. That is a unified app that has been introduced, integrated portal, where you can file your complaint. Within 60 days, the RBI will ensure that whatever money was in dispute, whether it is whatever money, you will get it in 60 days. And that works with a very effective manner, where the main objective was to provide welfare to the consumers, right? Now, the consumer department has also introduced dark patterns. Now, unfair practices is one of the concept. Now, the second one is the dark pattern. Dark pattern was introduced in the year 2022, which say that 2023 guidelines for prevention and regulation of dark pattern. Now, if you see, now dark pattern basically specified into 10 particular offenses, which it say that now when you must have seen that when you click, now when you are surfing the Facebook or Insta, you are coming up with new products, the website of new products, the website of new services. Now, if you see, if you are booking a particular ticket, they are asking to pay a 50 rupees, 10 rupees as a subscription fee for the app, or getting a free product in 30 rupees. Or if you book for this particular hotel, you will get a free site placing where it will charge you another 500 rupees, which will be less as compared to the regular services that has been given. Now, all this will come under the dark pattern. So that has been regarded as the dark pattern. Now, if, for example, you are asking a particular consumer to purchase this product, for which there is very limited products that are available. Now, if you see in Myntra or Flipkart, if you scroll down the product, you will see only one left. Now, if it is actually, if actually 15 items are left, and you are mentioning one item is left for that product, so that you are instigating the consumer to buy it as soon as possible, or to put a booking amount to book it, for the rest the other payment has to be made in a deferred payment. Now, that is the dark pattern in the businesses, or that is the dark pattern in the corporate. The corporates are taking up, because they want to make it innovative, that how our product needs to be sold in the market. Now, these particular instances need to be regulated again for the welfare of the consumer. Again, we have the e-commerce rule 2020, where it say that how the e-commerce companies need to be regulated under that. Then we have SSAI Act, which it say that how the packaging of the product has to be there, how the leveling of the product has to be there when you are coming. But now every product has their different ingredients, or different whatever requirements that is required, the name of the product, the ingredients of the product, how to use that product, what is the expiry of the product, what is the manufacturing address of the product, what is the price of the product, what is the color of the product, what is the flavor of the product, everything. Now, that needs to be again comply with the following guidelines of Food and Safety Act. Now, Food and Safety Act basically say how to pack a product, how to level a product, how to comply with the food product standards, how to put food additive with the products. Now, all these things are been regulated in the under to again ensure that the welfare of the consumers are being addressed. Then we have BIS for uh, Bureau of Indian Standard, egg mark for agricultural products. Legal Metrology Act say that when you are writing 50 kg, the packet must contain 50 kg. If it is less than that, then there will be a non-compliances. Right. Just a minute. So there will be a non-compliances. Now, when we say tourism sector, again, tourism sector has many other many schemes and regulations that need to be addressed when the startups comes up with the tourism sector. It's not that tourism sector doesn't have any rule or regulation. Then the AI. Now, as we know, AI is again now altogether AI is a different altogether a different concept, altogether a different topic to be discussed on the Consumer Protection Act. And as we know, the AI is developing at a very faster rate in every sector. Now, for that also, we need to see that now again when we are developing AI, the end user again is the consumer. Now, how consumer data is protected? Now, again, that is a question that how that need to be addressed, how that need to be restricted so that the interest that so that the welfare of the consumers are not affected to that extent. Now, when we say digitally active, when we say digitally aware, now digitally aware also means that how far you are digitally protected, how far you are digitally able to access to purchase that product and use that product, or purchase that services and use that services, right? So using AI in advertising, using AI in food products, using AI in education, using AI in financial services always needs again a supervision, or again needs a overlook that how these are not, to what extent these are not affecting the interest of the consumers. Then we have the Competition Act. Now, Competition Act also somehow relates to the innovation and consumer protection. When we say Competition Act, now Competition Act is basically say about the interest of the consumers. Now, if you see the difference between Consumer Act and Competition Act, the main difference say that Consumer Act is for the personal individual in person, where Competition Act is for prohibiting anti-competitive conduct. Now, when we say anti-competitive, we can take the example of some big companies. Now, Competition Act say you can compete, but you cannot compete to that extent that the other company cannot exist in the level playing field. So that is basically the act particularly say that you compete in the market. Without a competition, there is no commercialization, or there is that there will be no, without a competition a market cannot exist. But the competition should be such an extent that it is not affecting the lower level businesses, or the businesses which are having a very low revenue in the market. Now, highlighting the significance of Consumer Protection Act, the Supreme Court in India, in the case of CCI versus Steel Authority of India, stated that the principal objects of the Act, in terms of its preamble and statement of objects and reasons, are to eliminate practices having adverse effects on the competition, to promote and sustain competition in the market, to protect the interest of the consumers, and to ensure freedom of trade carried on by the participants in the market in view of economic development of the country. In other words, the Act requires not only protection of trade but also protection of the consumers. Now, basically, when we say what the Act provides, the Act basically provides prohibition of anti-competitive agreements, prohibition of abuse of dominant position, regulation of competition advocacy. So basically, the second point basically relates to the startups or the consumer, which say that when it comes to anti-competitive agreements, the basically the big companies put a major clause that you cannot do this, which cannot be done under the Competition Act. When we say that prohibition of the abuse of dominant position, now if Reliance will say, I will, now Reliance is a company in telecommunication sector where many of the subscribers are there. Now, apart from Jio also, we have Airtel, we have BSNL, we have many other networks also. Now, Jio has major subscribers in the Indian market. Now, if you say Jio will come up with a plan saying 200, if you recharge a plan of 200, you will get 6 months validity for a particular period, right? Now, when we say 6 months validity, definitely all the subscribers will come to Jio, and any other company will not have that particular subscribers to register for himself. Because अगर Jio मुझे 200 रुपए में मिलता है, 6 month का validity होता है incoming and outgoing call with the data card, then why I'll take other services, why I'll take other network. So dominant position should be restricted under the Competition Act. अगर dominant position हो गया तो और कोई startup तो exist ही नहीं कर पाएगा. No startup will come up with a network, or no startup will come up with a product, or no startup will come up with a services. So dominant player dominant player can be there in the market, but it should not abuse other companies in an abusive manner. So that is how the Innovation, Consumer Protection and Competition Act say, and how they are interconnected in the Indian ecosystem to provide protection, or to provide consumer welfare in the Indian market. So this is all about the presentation. If you have any question, you can ask.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ma'am, when Geo came firstly in the market, ma'am, it has given all the access, free internet access, free calling access. Ma'am, it is against the competitive spirit or not?
See, sir, there are certain activities when any company gives a trial version, that free services. Now, free service without paying a user fee, you cannot take a free services. It may happen. There is a plan which say that the plan is for 50 rupees, where you can access 2 GB data for 15 days. Now, you cannot say that is free. Right. Now, free which say that you are not paying and taking the benefit out of the product. Now when we say free services, on the basis of what you are giving free services, you are recharging the plan for rupees 100 and getting a free services for 3 months. It means you are paying a lesser price, but you are getting the benefit out of that. So that cannot be free services. It cannot be counted as free services. For example, you are purchasing a product. With a product, you are getting a particular item of less quantity. So that cannot be considered as a free product. It will be considered as now you are paying the price of the product, and in that price of the product, you are getting a free services, free product. Now, free product say that without paying anything, you are availing the benefit out of that product. So that cannot be counted under the restrictive or unfair trade practices.
Ma'am,
Yes.
good afternoon, ma'am. Myself, Ananga Kulkarni. I wanted to ask that, ma'am, before some time, the people who use Geo SIM card, so the Geo increased the prices by a significant amount. So that price change is also regulated by some act, or what is the procedure?
So we have a department of telecommunication, that is called, we have a Telecommunication Authority of India, which is a regulatory authority. Now, every sector has a regulatory authority. Real estate has a regulatory authority. Telecommunication has a regulatory authority. Airline sector has a regulatory authority. So different sector is regulated by a regulatory authority. Now, the price that has been paid for subscription, the plans that are there for different network services, a cap has been provided by the regulatory authorities. Cap means the regulatory authority will put a cap, that the cap for availing 1 month of services is 220 rupees. So all the network companies have to fix their prices within that particular cap. It cannot be more than 220. So whether it is Airtel, whether it is Idea, whether it is Reliance, whether it is any particular document, the network companies, the telecommunication companies cannot exceed the cap amount. Now, as the question you have asked, the Geo company has circulated a high range of subscription. Now, if the subscription comes under the cap, then there is no non-compliance relating to the company. If the subscription is more than the cap amount, then there is a violation which need to be addressed by the regulatory authority.
So, ma'am, can a consumer sue that company? Like
If
if
it
the
is
company has violated the rules?
No, if the company is violating the rules, then many cases are there relating to that. If you see, one case was there relating to the call drop services. Now, usually what happens when you have taken a when you have taken a subscriber, when you have taken a Reliance subscription and you have taken a Geo subscription, until and unless Geo and Reliance enter into a interconnection agreement, you cannot call the Geo from Airtel. You cannot call from Geo to Airtel telecommunication network or Airtel to Geo network. So they enter into a interconnection agreement where both the networks are connected. Now there was a case which was happened in the year 2017 or 18. There were certain call drop services in Airtel network. Now, why there was a call drop services? Now, when you have call drop services, the subscribers will be reduced. You will presume that Airtel company is not a good company, so I will just exit the network, the Airtel connection. I'll take a new Geo connection. Now, that is an initiative that was done by the company not to take the subscription, right? Or the Geo company has the other company has not entered into the contract with the Airtel company for which there was a call drop services. Now, again, when it was questioned by a consumer, the regulatory authority found out that there was no network connection agreement that was entered into with the different networks. Now, yes, when a complaint is reasonable or the claim is reasonable to be addressed, regulatory authority take it as a claim and provide grievance redressal under the whether compensation will be granted or not. So it depends. If it is violative under the regulatory norms or the regulatory regulations, then definitely whether it is the Airtel company or the Idea company or the Reliance company, they will be liable to pay the compensation for that.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My name is Abhay Pundir, and my question to you is that how the AI is going to impact the competition markets in our country. Like, is there any regulation mechanism for controlling the use of AI in the market and competition?
See, till now, the DPDP Act was not that much effective as it provides a brief interpretation of the digital platform that how the data need to be protected. But still, the ministry is working to come up that how that need to be protected, which will ensure that the welfare of the consumers are protected. Because now AI is applicable to all sectors, whether it is telecommunication, whether it is food sector, whether it is clothing sector, whether it is UPI transactions, everything. Now, to what extent we can ensure the safety of the consumer, that is again a question. Or we need to come up with a new law taking into consideration what are the offenses that we can presume that can be committed through this AI apps or the AI services that we have.
Okay. So I believe these were the few queries that the participants had. We really thank you, ma'am, for all your time and all your determination to take this session on a Saturday, like a Saturday afternoon. And we think the insights were of great value to us. We would be uploading the recorded version of this on YouTube, and the link would be shared to all the participants. We have also shared a feedback form in the group, in the chat box itself, and also in the group. You can fill out this feedback form for the purpose of certificates, and we shall be sending it. Ma'am, I had a query whether we could share the PPT you were discussing throughout the session.
Sure, sure. I'll send the PPT to you.
Okay,
Not
sure.
an issue.
Dhruv, you would be getting the PPT, the same question by Riddhi, so you can get a PPT for this. Right. Okay. Uh, Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you again for the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.